Before the production of the first Spongebob episode, Steven and some of the cast members were acting very strange. There was a guy that was constantly submitting morbid ideas for episodes, such as SpongeBob killing himself. But one of his most vile, disgusting, and horrid ideas was an episode titled Melancholia. Unlike most of his other ideas, Melancholia was actually supposed to be the pilot of the series. And the series was originally going to be about Squidward instead of SpongeBob. And one day, a person whose name is unknown sent a VHS tape to Nickelodeon headquarters. It was the 30th of April, 1999, and many people were hyped about the debut of a brand new series. The sticker on the VHS tape was written in Sharpie marker, and it had the words, SpongeBob Pilot, along with the release date of the episode, which would have been May 1st, 1999. Many people thought that this was nothing more than a bootleg tape. A few people expected this to be a pre-production version of the episode Help Wanted, the one where SpongeBob gets a job at the Krusty Krab, the actual pilot. And some people even thought that this would be a 1-hour-long special dedicated to the making of the show. Now, on first glance, the tape looked really beat up, as if a vehicle had ran over it. The film strip wasn't any better. It looked torn and even had some stains near the very bottom of the strip. Many of the staff members thought that the tape had already been viewed. A staff member looked at the very bottom of the tape and saw a tiny sheet of paper. He took the paper off the tape. And this is what it said. This tape has never been used before. It was made by a guy, the same guy who submitted the ideas to the studio. Yes, I know that it looks damaged, but you'll have to trust me. Without hesitation, Steven put the tape into the VCR and the test audience began to watch. And somehow it started playing. It started off with the normal intro that we all know and love. Except that at the very end of the intro, instead of SpongeBob playing his nose like a flute, Squidward appeared and started to cry. The crying was still very cartoony, but it still confused the audience. The title of the episode was Melancholia. It was a plain black text on a white background. Not to mention that it wasn't the font normally used for SpongeBob title cards. It was in Comic Sans. The happy-go-lucky music played as normal. The episode started off at SpongeBob's house. He was getting ready to go to the Krusty Krab. Now, the odd thing is that the animation was actually very smooth, and the backgrounds were colorless. My estimation was that the episode looked unfinished. It was like a test animation, minus the running and jumping. Anyway, SpongeBob was writing down a list of chores for him to do. His voice didn't really sound like Tom Kenny at all. It sounded much deeper, less upbeat. SpongeBob then left his house chanting the same "I'm ready" chant that would be used later in Help Wanted. Only this time it sounded a lot more downbeat. Some people thought that the guy behind the episode was voicing all the characters. And the moment he walked into the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob screamed, "I'm not ready." A poorly drawn picture of a crab, presumably a prototype for Mr. Krabs, walked out of a door and asked, "What the hell are you doing here? Do you want a shitty-ass job?" This caught the audience off guard. Nobody has sworn in a kids' show before, at least in the episodes that go live. Although it did show some of the characters swearing in a much, much later episode, that being Sailor Mouth, but it was bleeped, and you couldn't hear what SpongeBob or Patrick were saying. The dialogue between SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs continued. "I need money." "No, you don't, me boy. What can I help you with?" "I need money." SpongeBob started to chant that phrase over and over again. And this lasted for about 2 minutes, while Mr. Krabs' face started to melt. "Sorry, Sponge, but you have to work to earn money." "I want money." "Sponge, if you want money so bad, then why don't you apply for a job? You can get a job right here at the Krusty Krab." The screen zoomed into SpongeBob's disheveled face. Tears started to form from his eyes as he slowly walked out of the Krusty Krab. And on the way back to his house, Squidward came up to him and started to tease him. He called him various mean names, such as the Walking Cheese and Night of the Living Talking Sponge. And this started to annoy our protagonist a lot. The screen zoomed into his face, and his eyes got angrier and angrier. Eventually, his whole body started to shake in anger. The next scene, I'm really not sure what to make of it. All of a sudden, SpongeBob gets a knife and impales it through Squidward's body. He twists the knife through his stomach as some animated blood starts to drip from his wound. Squidward was screaming quite loudly. SpongeBob was laughing in a demonic nature. Squidward then drops to the ground, dead. And SpongeBob walks back to his house, still feeling very depressed. Back at his house, SpongeBob was watching TV with a sad expression on his face. He was continuously flipping channels as if he had nothing to watch. The screen started to zoom in on his face once more, and his eyes were extremely small this time. There was a beard underneath his nose, but unlike your usual beard that you see on some men, it wasn't like that at all. Instead, it was very faint, and you could see SpongeBob's mouth getting progressively larger and larger. The screen zoomed out of SpongeBob's face, and on the TV, you could hear the sounds of people getting murdered, and animals getting slaughtered for food. SpongeBob then opened his mouth, revealing 2 layers of sharp teeth, along with some ants and worms coming out of his mouth. And while this was happening, you could see images of burnt-down houses, bomb test victims, and people mutilated by landmines flashing rapidly across the screen. The body of SpongeBob fell to the floor, and the TV shut off by itself, ending the episode completely.